Here's how to make a crazy dark trap beat on FL Studio like Metro Boomin and Southside. After loading up FL Studio, set the tempo of the track to anywhere in the 140 to 160 beats per minute range. I've used 151 beats per minute for my project. Now load up a VST of your choice for the melody. Plugins like Omnisphere, Pigments, Analog Lab, Electra X and FM8 are great to use for these kind of dark trap beats. Here I've taken the Pigments plugin and used a key preset called City of the Lost. Essentially, this is just a sine wave with a short attack and decay and a medium sized release with a chorus effect and a low pass filter to cut out the high frequencies. To show this, I've used a stock plugin, 3X oscillators, and chosen the standard sine wave, changed the volume envelope to increase the release and attack, and added the stock plugins, Fruity Chorus, Fruity Parametric EQ, and Fruity Reverb. Here's how these both sound as proof that they are almost identical. Here's the process of how to make a melody like this. Start off with 4 chords. I've used F sharp minor, B minor, C sharp minor and A major. Then invert these chords by shifting the middle note, also known as the third, up an octave. Then turn these into broken chords by playing one note after the other. Then play a top line melody using notes from your scale, using your ear to decide which notes sound good. Then send this to a mixer track and add your desired effects. I've chosen to use a Portal preset called Time Rotation, which stretches the sound to make it sound less computerized, an RC20 retro color to make the sound more realistic with the noise, wobble, distortion and magnetic effects, and a reverb to make the sound less dry, and finally an EQ to cut the lows to avoid this clashing with the bass line that we will add later. Here's how this sounds with the effects. Now that the chord progression is down, it's time to add other elements to the melody to add variation. I've decided to use this bell from Pigments called Shooting Stars, and I've laid this lead pattern down, based off what sounds good with the progression. For the effects, I've added a lot of reverb and decreased the dry amount to push this to the back of the mix. The next sound I've added is a preset called Infinite Ensemble in Pigments, and this plays the root note of the scale at the beginning of the pattern. This has no effects on it. Now for the next part of the melody, we'll be making what is called a counter melody. This does not follow the progression and acts as a separate melody which will be played simultaneously with the main melody. I've drawn these notes in using a preset called Organizer, which again is from Pigments. It's worth noting that I shifted the start time of the melody to a position that sounded good to me. For effects, I added 2 thermal presets called Wobble Rider and Miracle Tone, with the mix level turned down for both. I used these for the drive distortion and saturation effects to make the counter melody stand out. I also added an RC20 retro color. Finally, I added a sub bass for the intro using a preset called Liquid Nero from Serum, with a thermal preset called Grit Your Teeth for distortion, and an EQ to cut out a lot of the high frequencies. Here's how the melody sounds all together. Now moving on to the bass line and drums, I used the Spins 808, which is the most used trap 808, and for a good reason. It's the best. I felt that the tail of this sound dragged on for too long, so I increased the fade out knob, which shortens the length of the sound. I then added a soft clipper to the master track, increased the volume of the 808, and added the Camel Crusher distortion, where I turned the mix level down to around 40%. Here's how the 808 sounds. I then added a snare pattern. Some trap beats use claps, but snares are better for those darker sounding trap beats. I added an accent snare and a rim to add bounce to the beat. For the hi-hats, I used a 2-step hi-hat pattern, but added rolls and also played some lower notes. It's important to make sure that your rolls don't sound too crazy. A good rule of thumb is to play the rolls before or after the 808 hits. Finally, I added an open hat and added some different notes to add variation to the beat. This isn't necessary for trap beats, but I always look to be creative where I can with mine. Now that all components of the beat are made, it's time to structure the beat. I've kept it simple with an 8-bar intro, a 16-bar hook, and a 32-bar verse. But you can get creative with this, as long as it's easy for an artist to follow. Here's how the final beat sounds. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please drop them in the comments below. If you learned anything in this tutorial, please give the video a like and subscribe. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.